Good evening, everyone. It's Julia from the Paper and Ink Boutique, and I'm here in my craft room at home, and this is Monday Night Live. How is everyone doing? Are you doing all right? Okay. Let me just click over here so I can see your comments. So welcome to everyone who's watching on Facebook, maybe in the Paper and Ink Inspiration group, or maybe you're watching on YouTube. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday Night Live, everyone. Okay, so if you tuned in last week I started a new series called Creating Backgrounds. And I created a bunch of backgrounds. This showed you some really easy techniques for using stencils and stamps and inks to create backgrounds. So tonight I'm going to show you some next steps on taking those backgrounds and creating something with them. So this is one that I created yesterday using a couple of my backgrounds that I did. So that I did create that yesterday using a couple of those backgrounds. So what I'm going to do, and I can see your comments. So if you you can put them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. I'm just going to flip over to my overhead camera. So just hang on and let's switch over to the overhead camera and we'll get started. There we go. Overhead camera's in place. Okay, so here's just a bunch of the backgrounds that I created last week. So you can see them all here. This is the card I created with a couple of those backgrounds. So two separate backgrounds. One I used to create the base, and then this one I stamped on and cut out to create that. So that is just one way on using your backgrounds. There are tons of other ways, but I know we've got a lot of card makers in the group. So I thought, well, I'll just show you how to make a card. But there are other things that I like to do with these, and I'll show you those in the next few episodes. So I do want to let you know that next Monday is, it's actually Halloween. And normally I don't usually do anything on Halloween, but we actually made plans this year. So there won't be a Monday Night Live next Monday, October 31st. But on the following Monday, that will be the first episode of, the next episode for Monday Night Live Surprise. Okay, so let's get started. Like I said, I've got I have to take the sweater off. So I have a bunch of backgrounds. Now, I usually have a bunch of these around. So if I need to make a quick card, I can go through, I can pick out one, I can add some stamping, and I can make a card. I like having just some of these around. And sometimes I just like to play and make backgrounds. And sometimes it's all about, working on color combinations and things like that. So like I said, this one I did make using two backgrounds. Two of these backgrounds I took and I made this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look through. Let me just see. I don't even know what I want to use. I'm going to go with these two. So let me just gather these up. So I'm also going to show. So this was part of the one that I had left over when I made this one yesterday. I had this left over, but I keep these because they're really good for stamping on sentiments. If you notice down here, my word hello was actually stamped on a piece of scrap I had left over once I cut this down. So really great for stamping on a sentiment, and it all matches. Like all of the colors you see in here are in here because it was from the original same piece. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to set that one aside for right now. I'm going to gather up the rest of these. We'll set those aside. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to use these. So good evening, everyone. Hi. So what would I do with these? Well, I did say on my sorry, I have had a headache all day, so my brain right now doesn't feel like it's really working. I feel like a little brain dead at the moment. I said to have some gesso. So what I usually do with my gesso, and I don't always do this, but when I do backgrounds like this, sometimes they're a little busy or there's a lot going on, and I kind of want to tame that. I kind of want to like push some of that busyness to the back so I can add another layer on top. So what I'm going to do is there's two ways of doing this. I'm going to take my palette knife. I'm going to scoop out some of that gesso. That feels like a lot of gesso. I'm just going to scoop out some of that gesso. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to drag some of this gesso. I still feel like that's too much. Just across this card. So I'm going to start at one end. I'm going to keep my spatula, my palette card flat. And I'm going to start at one end and I'm just going to drag it across and back. Some of it's going to be on thinner. Turn it this way. Drag some of that across there. Okay, so you can see what I've done there. Not completely covered up, but you can see I've just added some gesso on. So what it does is it adds another layer. It just adds some more depth. Some of it is still bright and shines through. Others have been a little bit muted. Okay, so that is my next step on that one. So you can see when I put the gesso on, it goes on flat, it goes on smooth. But what's going to happen is these layers underneath are water reactive. They're going to keep reacting. So what the gesso is going to do, the gesso is actually going to suck up some of that color. And you can already see it already kind of happening. See, I've put the white on it, but you can still see back through there. Okay, so that's what I do with gesso. I'm just going to set that one aside just for it to dry naturally. Now, next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the gesso and I'm going to put some on my work surface here. That gesso now. Now I'm going to take my brayer. So this is my brayer. This is a Tim Holtz one. Excuse me. Okay, this is the medium size brayer. There is the small one. This one's the medium. I like this one better than the small, but a lot of people like the small one card making. I actually prefer this one. So I'm going to roll my gesso or my brayer through my gesso. There you go. Got that on there. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to gesso. Just putting some of that gesso on my background. Okay. So you can see I've added that on. It has muted some, but it has also allowed some of the other to shine through. Okay. There you go. How would it look if you use clear gesso? Well, clear gesso, obviously it's clear, so it's not going to push any to the background. It would look like this, only you would just be covering up some of it, but it would be clear, like you would be able to see through it. Just gonna see if I've got some clear gesso. Just give me a second. I do have some clear gesso. Okay, clear gesso. So just give me a second. and I'll demo what that looks like. Just going to clean up this gesso here. There we go. And let me just wipe that up there. Okay, I'm just going to set both of these aside right now, and let me grab one of my other backgrounds. Okay, let me grab this one. So this is clear gesso. Here is my spatula. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that. Okay, so that's the clear gesso. So you can see everything is still the same. And that is not even dry. Like, it's not dry yet, but you can still see it hasn't changed anything. So this is the white gesso. This is the clear gesso. Now, what I have used clear gesso for, because Dion asked, is when I use like scrapbook paper. If I'm using scrapbook paper and I want to do mixed media on top of the scrapbook paper, but the paper is not really thick, I will cover it in clear gesso just to put a protective layer over it. I use the white gesso. You can also use white acrylic paint, because that's basically what gesso is white acrylic paint, to push things to the background. But you can see that's clear gesso. Has it changed it? No. No, nothing's changed. It looks exactly like it did before. But I could put what happens now is I could put something on top of it and wipe it back. But you can do the same here. But the reason why I use the white gesso is because I wanted it to push some of this to the background, so it's not quite so busy. See, so if I go back here, this is a very busy background, but say I wanted to stamp a face on here. I don't necessarily want the face to have all this color behind it. So I would come in and I would just put some gesso on. I don't want to cover the entire thing. I don't want to cover it all up. But see, now I could stamp, once this is dry, I could stamp on this, and then my face is going to show up. It's not going to have a whole bunch of that color coming through on it. And I'll show you that in just a second. I was actually, okay, let's cover that up. Okay, let me come back to my original two. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, that's looking good. This one's looking good. Yeah, because I put the gesso on so thin, it has dried really nice. Like it dries really fast because the gesso I put on such a thin layer. Okay, so what it's done is it's just kind of pushed some of those colors to the background just to make them a little bit more muted. Now, say I wanted to come in and I want to, I'm going to do this one. This is a stencil that I used last week, and you can see I used it on here. So I'm continuing to use the same just to keep everything kind of more kind of uniform between the weeks. I'm going to take a little bit of paint. I'm going to take a sponge. Makeup sponges work best for this as well. I'm going to take a sponge and I'm going to put it over top of here and just sponge my paint through. Again, we're just going to keep adding another layer, and try not to move your stencil like I just did. Yeah, I moved my stencil, so now it got all smooshy. Just a second. try that again. There we go. Okay. Green is not showing up like I hoped it would, but let's try it again. It's all about building up the layers. Okay. I am crashing and failing with this one, let me just say. Oh, I tell you, this headache has really taken a lot out of me today. Okay. I'm going to put this one to the side. I'm going to do something with it later. Okay, so let's go back to this one. Is that one dry? It is not. Just give me a second. Ooh, there we go. Okay, that one's dry. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because I told you that I covered this up. So if I wanted to do some stamping on it, I've got this face stamp from Dina Wakley that I haven't used enough. Just going to take that out because I'm using a red rubber stamp. I'm using my sticky mat in here for my Misty, so I don't have to worry about putting my magnets down. Okay, let me grab my ink. Okay, there we go. So you can see how I've stamped on it over top of the gesso and how it makes the face kind of pop out, right? Because now I've put the white in there. Oops, I am off. There we go. So you can still see the pattern behind there, but the white has muted it so that the face does stand out. If I was to stamp this right where all like the red dots are, you would kind of lose what you're seeing there. So that's why I put the gesso on before I stamp the face, because now I can still see the face. It still looks good, but it's just been a little bit more muted. Okay, let me clean this up. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to bring this one in here, the one that I'm not liking. I am going to cut this down to card size. So give me a moment. Five and a quarter by 4. Let's cut this down. Do I want to do that side? Do I want to do this side? Perfect. I always save these pieces because, like I said, they're always great for stamping a sentiment on. Yeah. So I'm going to save that. That's going to go over here in my pile because I might stamp a sentiment on that one. I'm not going to use this face. I just wanted to do that so you could see why I put the gesso on. And you can dry brush it on as well. You don't have to use a spatula or a brayer. You can actually take a brush. If I was to use a brush, it would be a wider one like this, but don't add water to your brush. Just dry brush on your gesso. But I do like using the spatula because you do get on a nice thin layer. Okay. But I love how that turned out. That, for me, I would use this in my art journal. I would cut out that face and that would go in my art journal. Okay, so here we are. We're going to turn this one into a card. Okay, love that. Love, 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 love. I am going to ink the edges. And oh, here it is. So even though I tried to do that stenciling and it didn't turn out, I'm just going to leave it. Still has a visual interest in it. Still like it. I'm going to ink my edges. I always ink my edges. I never not ink my edges. I always ink them. Okay. I love pink and green together. Okay, so on this one originally, I didn't do any stamping. But what I am going to do, I have this stamp set. I grabbed this one out yesterday because I haven't used it yet. And so it's the one that I did this flower with, this one here. Okay, so that's stamped there. I don't know if I'm going to use that one again. It's a large stamp set. Look how large the stamp set is. Huge. This is the one I used on this card. It's a beautiful, beautiful stamp. Love that one. I think I'm actually going to go with the sunflower though. So this is All in Create number 648. It's called Friendship Florals. Where's my Misty? Grab my Misty back here. Okay, and now I'm back to a clear stamp. So I need to put my mat back in there. Perfect. Again, working on my sticky mat. So I can put my card in there and not have to worry about having to put any magnets on there. Okay, so I am going to stamp that like that. Oops, there we go. I keep getting off screen here. Okay, so you can see I've got my stamp kind of over one side and down. It's not directly onto my card. Magnets. Here we go. Okay. Let's move that down there so that edge doesn't lift up. Going to stamp my sunflower on there. The gesso is really great to mute the background a bit because sometimes I end up making backgrounds and they're like really busy. They're like, oh my gosh, so busy, so many colors. And, you know, when I want to make a card, I don't necessarily want those colors to be in your face. So you just mute it. It doesn't make it disappear. I mean, you could if you added enough gesso, but I just had enough just to kind of, you know, it's still there, but it's just muted. Ooh, loving that. I'm going to stamp it one more time. Just going to use a baby wipe to wipe some of that ink off my sticky mat. There we go. Love that. Look how gorgeous that is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to move this up. I'm going to move that up a little bit, still on my sticky grid. Put that down there. Now I want to stamp it again. Just give me a second. Now that I'm thinking about it, there might have been, no, there's not. I thought there was another sunflower on there. I'm going to just stamp that down there. lovely. Okay, I'm going to take that out. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to stamp this again so that I can cut out the petals of this flower. On the blue. This is a gorgeous stamp set. Okay, I'm just going to lay that because I just want the flower. I don't want the leaves or anything else like that. I just want the flower. So I'm just going to stamp that. Remember, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll try and answer them. Just going to turn this because I want to stamp this again. So thankfully, when you have a stamp platform, it does give you the opportunity to do multiple layers of stamping. Awesome. Just going to clean this stamp. There we go. And before I do anything else, don't know if I'm going to stamp the bird on here. I think I might stamp that bird on. Oh, no, I'm not going to do the bird. Change my mind. Okay, get this out of my way. Is it stamping faded because it's on gesso or ink pad is a bit dry? No, it's not my ink pad. I just re-inked my ink pad. But this one, the reason why it's stamping like that is this the brayered one. And the brayered one is a bit textured. Is the reason why it's not stamping like this one. I used the spatula, so it went on super smooth. And this one, I use the brayer, and that one leaves a bit of texture. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, let me grab out my scissors. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, my flower on this one was also the the gessoed one. Or not, sorry, not the gessoed one, the brayered one. I can feel it because the texture on there. I don't mind it though. I'm not one who really cares too much if the stamping is absolutely perfect. I don't. The only time it really matters to me is if I'm stamping a sentiment. Sorry, I just had to dry that ink because it was still a little wet. Okay, so I don't mean to make you watch me do fussy cutting. but I'm just going to quickly go around and just trim out the image. Now, some other ideas I use for my background. I don't use all of them to make cards, but I will also use them in my art journaling. I will cut them in squares and put them on my background as a kind of a focal point, or I'll just use them to anchor a sentiment, or use them to anchor some sort of focal point on my page. I don't necessarily use them for, my entire background, but I do. Like sometimes if I don't want to make backgrounds like this, I'll sit down with my art journal and I'll just create some backgrounds in my art journal using these exact same techniques. Okay. I was a scrapbooker and a card maker for many years. And when I got into mixed media, I have to admit that it probably took me at least 2 years to let go of things needing to be perfect. Because I was a scrapbooker and a card maker. So things looking perfect to me was important. Not so much anymore. I don't really need things to look perfect. Some people still do, and that's fine. But I don't strive for perfection anymore. To me, doing is just meant to just be creative. Now, when I do scrapbooking pages and cards, things tend to, they do need to be a certain way, but in my art journal, not so much. Okay. And don't look too close at my fussy cutting because my fussy cutting also is not perfect. Some of you take your fussy cutting very seriously. I don't. I cut things out just for the sake of getting them cut out. Some people laugh at me. It's like, we're someone who doesn't like fussy cutting. You certainly do a lot of it. And it looks like my stamp was still wet, even though I dried it. And one more. Perfect. There we go. Let me clean up my little bits here. Ooh, lovely. Now, one thing that I'm going to do before we move on is I'm going to grab another stamp. Hang on. Okay, so I know where my flowers are going to go, but as soon as I put these other ones on top, they are going to disappear. I am trying to, here we go. And there we go. So I know when I put these down, I'm going to lose all this, which I meant to do. But if you see on this one, when I stamped this card, it had beyond the image of the flower, it had other stamping. And I really like that because it helps anchor it. Now, these stamps didn't have that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stamp here. This is that cool script stamp. Remember how I say you can never have too many script stamps, which is true. I have, I don't know, probably at least a dozen of them. I'm just going to add just some of this just along the edges of that flower. Perfect. Now you're probably looking at that. You're like, oh my gosh, what a hot mess. Why is she doing that? Well, the reason why I'm doing that is now I can put my flowers on, but now I've got some stamping around the outside. There we go. And I don't necessarily have to line this up. I could tip it and not line it up exactly. But if you look at this one, you can tell I did line it up exactly with the flower that I stamped on the back. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to take these flowers and I'm just going to kind of bend them because I do want there to be some sort of interest to them. And I'm going to bring this one back in. If I show you this one again, I did stamp this one 3 times. I stamped this flower 3 times on my 6x6 because I did the one big piece and then I cut out the center and then I cut out this front petal. And I did pop them up on dots to give it some elevation. I don't know if you can hear that barking, but my neighbor's dog is just going absolutely ballistic right now. I'm just going to put one large pop dot in there. Going to line that up so you can see I've made those edges. Now you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, what is happening? Why is she doing that? Had some card bases here. So what I like to do before I cut these flowers off, I didn't really want to make a mess tonight, but look at me. I am just all over. There we go. I am going to put some adhesive tape on here. Okay, let me peel that up. And one more. Make sure my card's opening the right way. Done that too many times. There we go. So now I'm going to cut those flowers off the edge of my card. Just going to take those. There we go. Now let me do, I am going to grab one of my pieces here. So this was a piece from that. No, I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to actually use this one from the card that I did yesterday. So see what I said about using these for sentiments? Not a plain white piece of paper, got some visual interest like that on there. I am going to stamp going to go back to this stamp set here and use the word hugs. I'm not going to use my stamp platform, just going to get out a little round stamping block. You know, stamping a sentiment and using a stamping block. Kind of daring. Oh, which stamp set is it? This stamp set, are you talking about the big stamp set? This one? It's all in Create 648, and it's called Friendship Florals. And there's a lot of really great stamps on here. Yeah, really good. All right, so I stamped that one. The word hugs. So I even use my creative backgrounds for stamping sentiments. Just going to just notch out a little tail on that one. And I'm also going to ink the edges. Just taking my stamp pad and inking those edges up. There we go. Oops. Don't set your stamp pad down face first. Just going to give this a quick dry. Okay, I'm just going to use some adhesive 3D strips that I happen to have here right beside me. These were longer strips. I just cut them down. And I need to trim that off a little bit. It's a bit too long. Oops. Okay, there we go. I'm going to just tuck that in underneath that one flower there. And there you go. I love it. Let me go back to that card I made yesterday. Made from those backgrounds that we made last week. And I absolutely love that. That's amazing. Okay, so like I said, other things that I will do with these backgrounds is I will take them and put them in my art journal. Now, one thing that I do, and I meant to grab it when I was at the store and I completely forgot, is I have a round circle punch, and we sell them at the store. It's the Fisker's round circle punch, and I think it's about, I want to say 2 inches. 2-inch in diameter circle. And I'll take these backgrounds and I will cut a bunch of circles out of them. And then I will lay these down in my art journal just as like circles across my page. And I absolutely love it. You know, I love circles. Yeah, circles are the best. Now, like I said, if I was to use this, I've got too many things with magnets in it. Holy moly. Everything I'm picking up has magnets stuck to it. So I'm going to cut this out so you can see what the face looks like on its own. I have stamped the faces just on white paper and cut them out, but they tend to be a little bit boring. So if you do this with your faces or really any kind of stamp like that and put the gesso on it, just look how gorgeous that face is. It's not just plain white. It does have some interest to it. Again, don't look too closely at my fussy cutting. Just look how beautiful that is. So if I was to go and put that in my art journal, this wasn't the art journal I was looking for, but here's one. So I'm just looking to see if I have another background in here made. I don't. No. But see how I've done this background is now I can come in and take that face and put that in there. And I would totally do that. Like, look how beautiful that is. And that was just one of those backgrounds that we made. My art journal, I might do that on a Monday. I have about 7 of them, but I don't think any of them are all finished. This is one of my newer ones. But yeah, so maybe you've got one of those stamps where it's like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what I will like or what I'm going to do with that. Well, take your stamps out and just stamp them on your backgrounds and cut stuff out of them. I love that. That's fun. Okay, so see this one. This is another one of my new favorite stamp sets. What is this one? Be Bold by Dina Wakley. And it's this one. So that's where that face came from. But it's also got these circles. And I love that sentiment. So say if I was to come in and stamp. Oops. Stamp that one. Ooh, I always forget that. Let me take that one out. There we go. Okay, so this has no gesso on it. No gesso whatsoever. Just going to turn that around. Let's stamp that one more time. And just look how beautiful that is stamped on that background. And I always tell people, don't worry, cut out your background or cut out your images first, because it looks completely different than when you look at like this and cut out the background. Now this is probably where I would take my circle punch and do this, but I don't have my circle punch on me. See, and just look how cool that is. That looks amazing. So it's a lot better than just stamping it on plain white paper and cutting it out. The background kind of gives it a bit of a, I don't know, just gives it some interest. Oops. Keep saying oops. I'm going to end up cutting off my finger here one of these days. There we go. How cool is that? And again, it would be something where I'd come over to my art journal. I would lay these in. Actually, these would fit in there very well. Ooh, you know, sometimes things happen for a reason. You know, like I would just sit. Now I've got these 2 circles. They fit in here perfectly. Look how easily those went in there. Look at that. I very rarely have an art journal page that is ever completely done. I'm always adding or doing things. But yeah, no, it's just so much fun. Now, just going to get this out of the way. So creating backgrounds. I don't know if any of you watched last week's video or created along with last week's video, but creating backgrounds is a really great way to get your product out, get them out of your drawers, get them out of your storage, make stuff, have fun with them, use your stencils, use your stamps, your sprays, your inks. The circle stamp? No, the circle stamp was from this Dina Wakley. It's called Be Bold. It's a Dina Wakley stamp set. It's one of her newer ones. So yeah. So because I have my art journal and I have an idea, I'm just going to do something in my art journal really quick. Let's do it on the front page. Because I have this face, I need to do something with it. So let me I have my bowl clip somewhere. Do you think I can find it? Don't see it anywhere. Okay, we're improvising now. I don't have any of this planned. So I'm just going to use this one stamp set. I am going to use these stamps. Okay. What is this book? This is one of the, it's from Stamperia. It is designed by trying to remember her name. It's a Stamperia Create Happiness art journal, and it is fairly new. We still have them at the store. We're out of the rest of the collection, but that is still there. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just using the circles to create just kind of a border down there. Nothing too crazy. I'm just, right now it's just black on white. Okay. Oops, I'm off the screen again. There we go. Vicky. Yeah, thank you. Vicky Papanawanu. Okay, so this face is going to go there. Love it. Oh my gosh. I finally figured out how to say Vicky Papanawanu. I think Antonis is the one who told me how to say it. Those Greek names, not easy. Okay. Oh, I'm loving that. This face is a little wonky. There we go. Now, normally I would use glue, but I do want this face to have a bit of dimension to it. So I am using all the dots. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I am going to double up some of the ones near the middle, so it does give the face a bit of shape. And I'm going to do one more, this one here. Before I do that, I want to stamp my sentiment. Now, I think I might stamp it on one of my backgrounds. Look how perfect that's going to be. Sometimes I'll be in my craft room for several hours and my husband will be like, what were you doing? It's like, were you making something? It's like, just backgrounds, just playing. It seems like all I have the time for right now is just playing and making backgrounds. Okay, so I'm going to stamp my sentiment on here. What kind of paper? Watercolor, cardstock, foundations, white texture, smooth. Oh, in this book, it is mixed media paper. It is heavyweight. Like it's very heavyweight. I would say it's even heavier than the Vicki Boutin Foundations paper. Yeah, well, no, they're probably about the same. So it is a mixed media paper. Oops, let's go up here. Yeah, it is meant for art journaling. It is meant for media, for wet media, so paints and sprays. It is meant for that. So there's my sentiment. I do have two sizes of this journal. I have this size and I have the smaller one, which I don't readily see around me right now. That one still might be at the store. I did have it at the store a little while ago. Okay, so there's my sentiment stamped on that paper. Look how gorgeous that is. Oh, I love it. I'm going to just take my ink because I want that to stand out from the background. Just let me dry this. Just use my pressure tool. Just press that down into the paper. And before I finish off, I'm actually going to take this pocket pen. I did this yesterday on this card. I did splash it with some gold pen. And I think I'm going to do the same here. Oh, yeah, that's working all right. Just going to take that, splatter on some gold paint. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. There we go. Give that a quick dry. Now I'm going to put my face down there. Be bold, be brave, and brilliant. And there we go. Oh, that was a fast art journal page, wasn't it? That was so fast. Now, I do like to let me see if I can find it really quick here. And I can't find my Vicky crayon. Looking for my black crayon, can't find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush that I use for all of my black ink. And I'm just going to do the edges. So lots of things you can do with your backgrounds, right? So I've shown you how you can make cards. And like I said, I always like to have a few of those backgrounds hanging around. So if I need a last minute card, I can just flip through those backgrounds and I can make a quick card. Usually all I have to do is like stamp a sentiment. And then it's done. Just cut it down and make a quick card. But if you're also wanting to work in your art journal, really great for creating a bold focal point, really great for stamping on a sentiment, cutting that out and putting that in there. And then there you go. Now, Julie, do you mean her latest, her Create Happiness ones? Those ones? Those we had in stock and they've been out of stock, and I've been trying to get them back from Stamperia for several months. And they tell me they should be back in stock sometime in November. But we did have those in July and they sold super fast. So, okay, there you go. So the backgrounds that we made last week, cards and an art journal page. Quick and easy. Like, look how fast that came together. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I wish you could see the crafter mask, my desk. Oh, she has a second new set. It's still Create Happiness though, right? Yeah. Um, I don't know if it's a second new set or if it's the second half of the first set that they never got in. I am going to be ordering all of it, but none of it's in stock with Stamperia right now. Okay, let me flip back up to my. There we go. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Okay, so that is it for me. I'm going to go lay down because my head is still pounding. But thank you for joining me. I hope you have learned something about taking your backgrounds and creating something cool with them. So, not all mixed media has to be and crazy projects. You can make beautiful cards. You can make really great, simple art journals. There you go. So thank you so much for joining me. And like I said, Monday Night Live will not be happening 1 week from today, but join me in 2 weeks and we will be back with another Monday Night Live surprise. This time, Cassandra is surprising me with a bag of product that I will have to create with on the fly. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you very, very soon.